The rain fell mercilessly that night, washing the city streets in silver streaks as if the heavens themselves were mourning someone's heartbreak. Under a flickering street lamp stood a man whose suit was soaked through, whose eyes carried the kind of pain that doesn't fade overnight. His name was Arif Malik, a self-made entrepreneur who built his life from the ashes of rejection. But tonight, even the empire he had created couldn't protect him from the echo of her words. "You'll never impress me, Arif. Not with your dreams, not with your ambition, not even with your love." If only she knew what those words would turn him into. Before we go deeper into this story of love, pride, heartbreak, and redemption, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love that changes people, then please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Arif wasn't born into wealth. His father worked as a bus driver, his mother ran a tiny sewing shop from their one-bedroom apartment. Life was simple, hard, and often unfair. Yet, even as a boy, Arif had a dream, not of riches, but of respect. He watched the world treat his parents as invisible, and he promised himself one day, he would be someone nobody could ignore. That dream burned inside him like a secret fire, pushing him through sleepless nights, failed attempts, and endless rejections. By 25, he had started his own logistics company with borrowed money and sheer stubbornness. And by 28, he was on the edge of success, not rich yet, but finally getting there. And that's when he met her, Meera Kapoor. She walked into his life like sunlight in a room that had forgotten what warmth felt like. She was confident, sharp, beautiful in a way that didn't try to be. She worked at the same business center where his small office was located, an architect with dreams of designing skyscrapers. Arif was drawn to her from the moment he saw her standing by the glass window, sketching outlines of buildings on her tablet. But what started as admiration soon turned into something deeper. Arif fell, completely, helplessly. He'd find excuses to meet her at the coffee shop downstairs, offer to carry her sketches when she was late for meetings, and sometimes even stay late just to say goodbye when she left. Meera knew what he was doing. She wasn't unkind, but she was guarded. Her past had left her with walls no one could climb easily. Arif admired that strength. But when he finally gathered the courage to tell her how he felt, her response struck him like lightning on a clear day. She smiled softly, almost pityingly, and said, "Arif, you're sweet, but I don't think you understand. I've seen men like you before, chasing dreams, chasing success. You think love is another goal to win. You'll never impress me, because I don't want someone who's trying to prove himself. I want someone who's already content, who doesn't need to conquer the world just to feel worthy." And with that, she walked away. Those words replayed in Arif's mind for months, "You'll never impress me." They became both his curse and his motivation. He buried his heartbreak in work, turning his small company into one of the fastest-growing logistics startups in the city. Every deal he made, every contract he won, was a silent answer to her rejection. But deep inside, success felt hollow. Every time he saw her, at business events, in news articles about architecture awards, something inside him twisted painfully. She was doing well, designing beautiful spaces across the city, while he was turning into a machine chasing profit and recognition. Years passed. Arif's name became well known in the corporate world. His suits got more expensive, his cars more luxurious, but the mirror showed him a man who had forgotten how to smile. One night, after closing $1 million deal, he sat alone in his penthouse, looking down at the city lights that once represented his dreams. That's when he realized, he had built everything except peace. Then fate intervened. One rainy evening, as he waited for his car outside a client's building, he saw her again, Meera, standing under a black umbrella, struggling to protect a rolled-up design portfolio from the storm. Without thinking, Arif walked up and offered her shelter in his car. She hesitated, then accepted, perhaps out of exhaustion more than desire. The silence between them was thick, filled with unsaid years. She looked tired, not the radiant woman he remembered. When he asked how she was doing, she laughed bitterly. The firm I worked for shut down. I've been freelancing, but it's hard. Clients don't pay on time. Dreams don't pay rent, you know. Her words cut through him. She wasn't arrogant anymore. Life had humbled her too. He dropped her home that night, a modest old building that looked like it hadn't been repainted in decades. When she stepped out, she turned to him and said quietly, "It was nice seeing you again, Arif. You've done well. I'm happy for you." But something about the sadness in her eyes haunted him long after she closed the door. That night, Arif couldn't sleep. The image of her standing alone in that rundown building wouldn't leave his mind. The next morning, he asked his assistant to find out who owned the property. A few weeks later, he signed the papers. The entire building now belonged to him. He didn't do it to show off. He did it because, for the first time, he realized that impressing her wasn't about luxury or power, it was about care. He hired the best renovation team in the city, giving one simple instruction: restore the building completely, keep every tenant safe, and don't raise the rent by a single rupee. The workers painted the walls, fixed the leaks, installed elevators, and created a small rooftop garden, a place where the residents could breathe again. When the work was done, he arranged a small gathering for all tenants to announce the change in ownership. Mira came too, curious but unaware of what was happening. Arif stood on the stage, his heart pounding like it hadn't in years. He took the microphone and said, "This building has stood through rain and time, just like the people inside it. From today, it will stand stronger, not because it's owned by someone rich, but because it deserves respect." Then he turned, looked directly at Mira, and added softly, "Sometimes, life gives you a chance to rewrite a story you thought was over." When she realized the truth, that he was now the owner, her eyes widened in disbelief. But he didn't stay to see her reaction. He simply walked away, leaving her with the quiet realization of what he'd done. Days later, she visited his office. She looked around his grand space, the glass walls, the city skyline beyond. Then she turned to him and said, "You didn't have to do all that. Buying a building just to prove a point, it's too much." He smiled faintly. "I didn't do it to prove anything, Mira. I did it because you were right. I spent years trying to impress you with success, when I should have been trying to understand what truly matters. You once said you wanted someone content. I wasn't, but I'm learning." She looked at him for a long moment, and something shifted in her eyes, not pity this time, but something softer, almost like regret. "Maybe," she whispered, "we both learned too late what really matters." But destiny wasn't finished yet. Months passed, and Arif continued to support small projects across the city, rebuilding schools, funding struggling artists, and quietly restoring lives. Mira, inspired by his transformation, joined hands with him on a community design initiative. They spent long days planning spaces for those who had none, late nights discussing dreams they once thought impossible. Slowly, walls that pride and pain had built began to crumble between them. One evening, as they stood on the rooftop garden of her renovated building, the same one that had once symbolized her struggles, Mira looked at the city lights below and said, "You know, Arif, I think you finally did it." He turned to her, confused. "Did what?" "You impressed me," she said softly, a tear shining in her eye. Arif smiled, not with pride, but peace. Because for the first time in his life, he wasn't trying to win. He was just there, beside the woman who once broke his heart, sharing the quiet beauty of everything they'd both survived. If this story touched your heart, if you believe people can change, that love can heal pride, and that sometimes rejection is just redirection, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your support helps more people find stories that remind us we're never too broken to start again. Speech balloon special request, comment below, do you believe people deserve a second chance when life humbles them? I'd love to read your thoughts. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a story about a man buying a building, it's about a man rebuilding himself. And sometimes, that's the most beautiful thing love can ever make us do.